Hello everyone from the YouTube studio, which is located here in Vilnius, Lithuania. We're just here where the NATO Public Forum is held, and together with Jack Kelly, today we're hosting our guest, Mr. Deputy Secretary General Mircea Geoană. Hi, Mr.
Thank you for having me. It's a great studio you have and a great crew here.
And a comfortable chair, they say.
Yeah, also mine. It's surprisingly comfy. Thank you for having me.
I'm Ukrainian journalist, so my questions will be about Ukraine and about your expectations from this forum.
No, we're looking forward to receiving President Zelensky. We're also very happy that for the first time we'll be having the first edition of the new political vehicle that allies have agreed upon, the NATO-Ukraine Council. And so probably people wonder, we had a commission before NATO-Ukraine and now a council, what's the big difference? It is a huge difference politically. Because number one, Mr. Zelensky and the leadership of Ukraine will be among equals. He will be seated between UK and Turkey, because they will be alphabetically. I'm giving you a visual of this.
Yeah.
And then on substance, this will be the highest method and vehicle for all our partnerships, and we'll be discussing there everything related to our cooperation, crisis management, support, reforms that are still needed in Ukraine. Also, we'll be our leaders will be announcing a new multi-year practical assistance, because politics is always important and strategic issues are important, but also we have to continue to help Ukraine transform its national security institutions, solidify these institutions, and also make sure that the transition from war to peace will be done according to NATO standards. So I'm very optimistic about the outcome. Of course, we'll be seeing the language. Everybody is anticipating what our negotiators are doing right away. I cannot anticipate that. But I would say that for President Zelensky, for Ukraine, for the heroes in the battlefield and the heroes all over Ukraine, I believe that Vilnius will be a very good signal of encouragement. You're getting closer to NATO. You're a future member of our family, and I think Vilnius will be a milestone in that direction.
So it's not the new information for you, but while we are talking, while this forum is holding on, there is a very terrific war in my country and on the fields of war. So we have the counteroffensive. And do you think that the volume of NATO assistance is sufficient for this successful counteroffensive of Ukraine, for our victory? Maybe
we have been already 500 days in this bloody war that Russia started illogically, brutally and illegally against Ukraine. And I have to say that Ukraine has been doing great. Also because you fight for your land. You're so heroic, and you have the whole nation behind you. And also because we've been helping Ukraine, not only now, but when the war really started in 2014.
Sure.
With the illegal annexation of Crimea. So I think your forces have been already trained according to NATO standards, NATO command and control. Of course, there is always need for more military equipment, for more resources, for more money. And allies and partners of NATO, more than 50 nations, are trying to make sure that we provide the best equipment we can get, the best timing we can have, according to the needs that our Ukrainian friends are telling us. It's not always perfect. Why? Because also, especially in Europe, nations have not investing that much in stocks and ammunitions or industrial production. Why? Because the context was not indicating that need. So now we are in a way also ourselves catching up, ramping up production in order to fill in our own stockpiles and also to be able to do more and faster for Ukraine. So can I say that this is something that is perfectly reflecting the needs of Ukraine? No. Are we in a very dynamic and very interesting process of delivering much faster and in quantity and quality the needs of Ukraine? Yes. Training is doing great.
Absolutely.
Great. And I have to say that our guys, our professionals, training military colleagues from Ukraine are amazed by the speed in which they learn. They are smart, they're quick, they are innovative, and in a way we're also learning from Ukraine. I mentioned on stage just a minute ago that it's a sort of a circular lessons learned process. Ukrainians are learning from us, we are learning from you.
Talking about that, do you think that Ukraine can strengthen the collective security of NATO by this?
You know, Ukraine is already doing a lot for European security, because just by defending yourselves without help, you are basically defending a system of norms and a security architecture in Europe that Russia is trying to demolish. So yes, you do a lot. And many of the, and it's normal for the Eastern European allies from the Eastern flank, Baltic countries, Poland, my home country of Romania, Slovakia, all these countries, now Finland and Sweden. We are very happy of that news. I think it's good news also for Ukraine. They all say that, in fact, Ukraine is also fighting the war also on our behalf. This is true. So that's why we have to make sure that we help Ukraine all the way, that Ukraine is prevailing in this war, that we have a durable peace, and have Ukraine not only during war but also during peace as a very successful European nation with a strong economy, with strong institutions, with strong military, and to be basically organically part of the democratic West. In the EU, we also applaud from NATO the fact that the EU is opening its doors for EU membership for Ukraine and for the Republic of Moldova and Georgia for that matter. So what happens in Ukraine is important for Europe, is important for Ukraine, and is also important around the world. This is what Secretary General Stoltenberg is saying, that Ukraine's fight is a very important thing for Ukraine and for Europeans and for NATO. But also, this is also a lessons learned from other authoritarian leaders that might be tempted, if Ukraine will not be supported and will not prevail, to use the same strategy of invading someone else, and then to believe that they can get away with it. And in a way, the example of Ukraine is global, is not only national or European.
We've obviously touched on the future and what lies forward in the conflict and new member states joining NATO. I'm curious to drill a bit further into the details of the future of NATO. Obviously, the war in Ukraine has reinvigorated NATO to some extent. We've seen a real pull together around this issue. Do you think that's something you can expect to see continuing into the future? Is NATO going to continue being aligned in future years, do you believe?
There's always been a need for NATO and of NATO since our inception almost 75 years ago. By the way, in Washington next year we'll have the 75th anniversary summit. And what we have decided in Madrid last year, what we are deciding now in Vilnius, what we'll be deciding in the next year. So basically, I would say, without pretending I'm a fortune teller, I'm not. But I think we have a pretty strong belief that what we are doing now, and the decision we take also here in Vilnius, for Ukraine, for Sweden and Finland, for our military planning, for our investment in defense and national security and collective security, will be transforming Europe and also, we believe, world affairs for decades to come. And this is what NATO is really all about. Being able to keep all these countries together. Now will be 32 allies, 1 billion people. And also approving the new defense plans and new technological issues, having Diana in the Innovation Fund in NATO. I think will be helping our allies to avoid a false dilemma between investing in high-intensity warfare, like the one we see in Ukraine, and also high-end capabilities. We need them both. So in a way, I'm very optimistic that NATO will stay relevant. It has been relevant all the way. And when we say with pride that we are serving today in the most successful alliance in human history, also because we have in our gene, in our genetical code of NATO, that gene of permanent adaptation to a changing world. And that's what we do, and that's why we're optimistic about the future of this alliance.
And looking slightly further afield, how much attention do you think NATO should be paying to the Asia-Pacific region at the moment? And are you concerned that disagreement between member states on issues like China could put a strain on the alliance? We
have sometimes nuances or opinions that do not coincide all the time. I think will not be an alliance of democracies if everybody will be identically aligned on every subject at every single point in time. But when we get into a consensus operation like we'll do here in Vilnius, we are very, very solid. Number one, NATO will remain, by treaty, a regional organization. We are a Euro-Atlantic, a transatlantic organization. That's clear. But the nature of global challenges to our security are not geographical anymore. Of course, there is deterrence and defense for territory and population, but cyber is global. Climate change is global. Space is global. Hybrid is global. Supply chain is global. So it's impossible for NATO not to look to the whole world and also beyond the world into space and cyberspace, because that's part of what we do. In order to defend my 1 billion people living in NATO countries, I have to make sure that I respond to all threats. China is an interesting example because it's a country that is investing a lot. It's an economic development, and that's perfectly fine. But also investing a lot of defense on new systems in a relatively opaque way. So we are also in the business of finding the right balance between cooperation, but also more prudence when it comes to challenges that are coming our way. So yes, we are a regional organization with a global understanding of security challenges.
I didn't want to ask him, Jack knows about the peaceful negotiations with Russia, but do you think it will take place in your close discussions with Zelensky? Will maybe the collective mind of NATO persuade him to go to any peaceful negotiations, or we just have to fight?
You know, it's paradoxical. The fact that the more and the better we help Ukraine, the sooner peace would come.
Yeah, I'm sure in this.
That sounds paradoxical, but it's not. Because we'll never tell President Zelensky or the Ukrainian people what to do with their future. We'll never impose on Ukraine things that Ukrainians themselves don't believe are good for them. So it's up to President Zelensky and the people of Ukraine to decide the contour of peace when and if conditions would be met. What we need to do is to continue to help you, to make sure that we help you in the military field, in the economic field, in reconstruction, humanitarian aid. And this is something I want to say that also European, non-US allies, Canada and Europeans, we are doing also a lot. US, of course, is leading. It's a huge superpower. A lot in military issues, but also the other allies are doing a lot and other partners are doing a lot. So there will be absolutely no discussion here when President Zelensky would be with his colleagues and his peers, the leaders of the free world, about what Ukraine should do or where negotiations should start. Our obligation is to make sure that we create the conditions for Ukraine to decide when and if and under which terms issues will be met. And also something that is very important, and we say sustainable peace. You have heard Secretary General Stoltenberg speaking many, many times of sustainable peace. It's not only achieving a truce, some form of armistice disguised into peace. Because we know that Russia, if we don't help Ukraine and if we don't do the right things, will be tempted to start all over again. So this is where I want to send a very strong signal. We support Ukraine all the way, and it's up to the Ukrainian people and leaders to decide when and if conditions will be met for eventual peace talks.
Thank you. I agree with you. Thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you.
For coming,
so
for finding time.
Next time I'll take off my tie.
And
thank you, the crew. Thank you, everyone. It's a great studio here. If you don't see the other guys,
you can stay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.